tonight on 16 by 9.
Now, most Canadians agree that if you do the crime, you should do the time. But what if that crime was in the United States and that time was in a U.S. federal penitentiary in the middle of California's Mojave Desert?
He'd be telling me, Mom, I can't believe the Canadian government would leave us here. If they knew how bad it was here, they wouldn't leave us here.
He's the next Canadian superstar with a voice that will bring you to tears. What sets Justin Hines apart from the rest and motivates him to keep going?
Say what you will.
Your CD's right here between Beyonce, Michael Bublé, the Jonas Brothers, and Seal.
That's pretty awesome. I'm gonna remember this.
Our first season is drawing to an end. Coming up, the best of 16 by 9.
You saw it here first, 16 by 9. Mwah.
That's all coming up on 16 by 9.
Please don't touch the camera, that's assault. Talk to us about this.
I don't need to talk to you.
Can you have Oh, I'm sorry. Here we go, Marion. CanCon in 3, 2.
Good evening and welcome to the season finale of 16 by 9, The Bigger Picture. I'm Mary Garafello. They are Canadian criminals who broke the law across the border and are doing time in U.S. jails. But a treaty between Canada and the United States says they can serve their sentence here. So why aren't they? Our Francis Savaggio tonight with a story about Canadian criminals in American jails and why we should even care.
Amanda McLaren thought she had the perfect life. The 28-year-old fell in love with Michael Dudas, an up-and-coming BC musician. Michael popped the question shortly after competing in this BC talent search in 2007, and then a pregnancy test confirmed what doctors had said was medically impossible for the couple.
He opened it up and he was like, is this are you? I'm like, yeah. And then we went to a Superstore and bought 3 more. Just to make sure it was true.
Gonna go see Daddy? Yeah.
But by the time Nora was born in August 2008, a past Michael thought he had left behind would tear this perfect little family apart.
Please don't remember me for mistakes that I've made.
I still cry when I hear that song.
This song is Michael's apology to his family. You see, in 2005, he was implicated in a marijuana trafficking operation after his partner was caught transporting more than 50 kilos of BC bud into the U.S. by helicopter. The family says all that was in the past, but with the charges still pending, that past was about to change their future.
Please forgive me for the choices that I've made.
Once I found out I was pregnant, he just said, you know what? We're not going to fight this anymore. I did the crime. I'm going to turn myself in and plead guilty, and hopefully that will gain us, some kind of points with the American justice system.
So on March 20th, 2008, Michael Dudas decided to address the dark cloud that was hanging over top of him. He came here to the Peace Arch, the main border crossing between Canada and the U.S. in British Columbia. He turned himself in to U.S. authorities, was arrested, tried, and sentenced to 5 years in a U.S. federal prison.
We were all devastated sitting in that courtroom. Like, she was, I think, 3 weeks old when he got sentenced, and 5 years was just like, oh my God, five years?
Today, Amanda and Nora must fly to Los Angeles and then drive nearly 2.5 hours north, deep into the Mojave Desert, to see Michael at the California City Federal Correctional Facility for foreign inmates. Linda Dreger is from Calgary. Her son Brent Curtis is in the same prison serving 57 months for a similar non-violent drug offense.
It's a godforsaken place because it's like 100 degrees Fahrenheit and it's in the middle of a desert.
There are currently 12 Canadians here, along with more than 2,000 Mexican criminals. While prison officials refuse comment, this is essentially a warehouse for aliens. There's virtually no programming or education, and first-time non-violent offenders serve out their time alongside murderers and other dangerous offenders.
He'd be standing there telling me, Mom, I can't believe the Canadian government would leave us here. If they knew how bad it was here, they wouldn't leave us here. The private company that runs this penitentiary won't allow us inside to talk to any of the Canadian inmates, so we had to arrange to talk to them by phone.
We walk on eggshells all the time here. I've been threatened. It's a tough life here.
John Conroy has heard the same story many times before. That's why the BC lawyer has agreed to help get Mike and Brent out of the U.S. and into a Canadian prison.
A Canadian citizen has a right that others do not have to enter or return to his country.
For convicted criminals, the process is called an international treaty transfer. It gives the federal government the authority to transfer Canadians out of U.S. and other foreign prisons so they can serve their time in Canada if they meet the following. The offender has social or family ties in Canada. The offender had no plans of abandoning Canada as their permanent residence. The foreign prison system threatens the offender's security or human rights, or the offender is not considered a security threat to Canada. In both Michael and Brent's cases, the U.S. authorities said okay. But Canada's Minister of Public Safety, Peter Van Loan, said no.
Our number one objective as a government has to be to ensure, certainly me as Public Safety Minister, the safety of Canadians, the safety of our communities.
Sean Howard is with the Canadian Justice Foundation.
At the end of the day, you've got to follow the rules of the place where you are. And if you get caught up in criminal activity or you enter into it, you're going to pay a price.
But BC's Simon Fraser University criminologist Neil Boyd wonders who's really paying that price.
These are people who are coming back, and if they come back in much worse shape than when they left, which is much more likely with the American system of justice, then how are we well served?
In fact, it's worth noting that all of these foreign inmates will be deported at the end of their sentence. Since their crimes were in the U.S., they will have no criminal record when they arrive home, no parole restrictions, and no programming to prepare them to return to their communities.
What would be the safest thing for the Canadian public? The minister seems to be saying, leave them in that other country until they're deported back free and clear of any restrictions whatsoever. My opinion is, treaty transfer them back into the Canadian system so they become known to our correctional system.
Approvals have declined under the current government, but Ottawa says nothing has changed.
We have focused significantly on what the statute says, ensuring that our decisions are sound, that they can sustain any judicial review efforts.
But families say, like their loved ones, the government has turned its back on public safety as well. Linda is leaving California, unsure when she'll see her son again.
It might be a year again. And every time you see him, he's changed. Like there's a change. And it's sad. It's really sad.
I think I'll buy me a boat and head on down to the coast.
Michael Dudas's family has left as well.
I can't just give up and say, okay, I have to fight. Otherwise, I have nothing left. You know, I have to get home.
Barely home from her last visit, Amanda receives a letter from Michael. It's their only lifeline to each other. A family photo from the visit is a reminder of what they have together, but also of what they have lost.
This is the life we have, and there's no love lost. We still love each other very much, and nothing changes that. It's just sucks that he had to go away for all this time and miss out on so much stuff.
Good times that we'll have.
Next on 16 by 9.
Do you rise in the morning with the sun? Nice to meet you. Nice to see you too. I wouldn't trade my situation for anything.
Did you miss something? Watch our show 16 by 9 online at global16by9.com.